been a busy day for Chris Drury on Free Agent Frenzy Day, July 1st in the NHL. The New York Rangers have made a lot of signings, and they are bargain bin signings. The Rangers really had no other choice. They are right up against the cap, and in some ways that almost helps them here. It didn't allow them to make any sort of long-term big money deals. And so we're going to talk about a bunch of players Rangers signed, some certainly more important than others. And there's definitely one big name here, and some other, semi-significant ones. But the Rangers are, filling out their depth, and, they signed Jonathan Quick officially. We discussed that in the last episode, and that ends up coming out to $825K. So it ends up being less than $1 million. Like I said, it shouldn't be anything more than that. And since it's a 35-plus contract, there were some incentives, some performance bonus incentives. What was it? It looks like $100K. So it comes out to $925 at most. But that doesn't affect the cap. So it's still an $825,000 cap hit for Jonathan Quick. And again, do I love him as the backup? Not necessarily. Obviously, what he's done in his career is, really amazing. But Benoit Allaire is going to have to really help here because obviously he struggled with the Kings, had a bit of an uptick with Vegas, but that's what it is. Now let's talk about today. We're going to discuss some forwards, some defensemen. Let's talk about the forwards first. So the biggest name signing today is Blake Wheeler, who was recently bought out by the Winnipeg Jets. Wheeler was the captain of the Jets for, I think, about 6 seasons, and actually was stripped of the captaincy heading into this season. So, that's led to, talk about him that, I'm not going to go as far as to say this. I don't know enough about the situation that, he's a locker room cancer. I think that's probably far-fetched. Obviously, it's never a great look when you get the captaincy stripped from you. But no better person to know about the situation in terms of his former teammate, Jacob Trouba. Trouba and Wheeler were together with Winnipeg for a long time. I'm sure he gave a good endorsement. And Wheeler clearly wanted to be a Ranger. When you think about the fact that he signed, this is an $800K signing. And the bonuses for him are $300K. So I guess that means that he can earn as much as $1.1 million. So the thing with Wheeler is, this is a player that is trending downward, but again, it's so cheap. The investment is such that you may as well take a chance, and Wheeler will get an opportunity. Right wing is a position where the Rangers don't have a lot of options, right? Kakko is on the right wing. Besides that, there's no natural fits there. Sure, you can move over Lafreniere, but he is a left wing by trade. Goodrow can always play on the right wing. But again, it's a position of need. And Blake Wheeler, this is someone who, his last contract was $8.25 million. So the Winnipeg Jets bought him out. He had 1 year left on the deal, I believe when he was bought out. And clearly, this was he wanted to come to the Rangers because, again, this is a very cheap contract. This is I see other teams do this, and it's damn, that'd be great. So, you can't expect the Blake Wheeler of old. This is someone that, 2 straight years put up 91 points. And, I would say he peaked in probably 2018 or so. That was where Winnipeg goes on to the conference final. They lose to Vegas, but Wheeler puts up 21 points in 17 playoff games. But Wheeler, has definitely, since I guess around COVID, he definitely hasn't been quite the same. But still, the stats are pretty good. This year was worse than in years past. He's definitely more of an assist guy. He can put up goals. He put up 28 goals with Winnipeg in 2014. But, definitely a lot of assists, more of a playmaker, but I guess a blend of both. He was, the longest tenured Winnipeg Jet, originally with the Atlanta Thrashers. He, was traded to Atlanta from Boston and, had been with Winnipeg since their reinception So it's going to be a change. Again, obviously he'll be familiar with Trouba, but Wheeler is going to be, looked upon, I think, as someone to provide leadership. Again, I know that he was captain and wasn't, but still, the fact that he was captain for, like I said, I think it was like 6 seasons, that does say something. And so, as much as the Rangers are a slow team, and Blake Wheeler does not have a lot of speed. He is more of a, I think his style is good for playoffs. Look, even this past season, in a year that wasn't as good for Wheeler, it was a 5-game series loss to Vegas, but he put up 2 goals, 4 assists, and 6 points. And a couple years ago with Winnipeg, in an 8-game sample, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. So, pretty good stats in the playoffs. Doesn't tell the whole story, but Wheeler, that's someone that is going to be in the lineup, absolutely. But if he were to struggle, look, it's only an $800K, signing. So it's not as if you are stuck with him. It's a 1-year deal. So in terms of risk reward, worth the shot. You should get a motivated Blake Wheeler. But I'm curious to see, could he just be totally sinking downward? Potentially. But even if he does, you got to think it's better than what the cost was. So again, you can't really complain with it. But again, I will say, Wheeler, under normal circumstances, I don't know if I would have been a fan of it. Again, he's 36 years old, Wheeler. So he is going to be the oldest Ranger. Let's talk about another 35-plus guy, Nick Bonino. Bonino is someone that I had mentioned when it was trade deadline time. And I thought there was a chance that maybe that, they would try to acquire him from the San Jose Sharks. They didn't, and the Penguins did. And that trade, traded from Montreal. I don't know, maybe, not sure how that went down exactly. It says traded, let's see this, the deal. Oh, it was a 3-way. Okay, I see. It's a 3-way trade. That's what it was. But really, he came from San Jose. And Bonino has spent time under Peter Laviolette in Nashville. Ranger fans will most know him for Pittsburgh, right? When he was on that line with Carl Hagelin and Phil Kessel, what was it called? The HBK line, specifically in 2016. But Bonino won 2 cups with the Penguins, 16 against the Sharks, who he would eventually be on, and then 17 against the Predators, who he would eventually be on as well. And that led him to signing I think it was a 4-year deal, pretty big contract with the Preds. And with Nashville, they had a really good 2018 season that he was a part of. This was a player that at one point was a prototypical 3rd-line center. Now he's more of a 4th-line center. And again, speed isn't a thing for him. This is also someone that was really good on faceoffs. Last year, not as good, but he was someone that was always over 50%. Hopefully he can get that back. But this is someone that I think we can pencil in as a 4th-line center. That is going to be his spot almost without a doubt. So, again, Bonino is someone that has Stanley Cup pedigree, has been with Laviolette before with Nashville, and has bounced around a little bit in recent years. He went from Nashville to Minnesota to San Jose and then back to Pittsburgh. But I think that Bonino, again, and this is an $800K signing. Again, I'm not used to saying these things at the Rangers. Usually these are, there's overpays and things like that. But Bonino, that's a good addition, just for a good price. And, look, this is someone who's old as well, 35, but again, taking it into context, I think it's all right. Continuing on with the forwards, Tyler Pitlick. Tyler Pitlick is someone, not a big, this is where, this isn't a big name, but this is someone that's been in the NHL for a while now, has bounced around quite a bit. But if I had to guess right now, this is someone that probably does make the opening night roster. Is it guaranteed? It's not. There'll be competition there, but he is, a 4th-line winger who last year was with the St. Louis Blues, played in 61 games. Now, last year, surprisingly, didn't really have a whole lot of penalty killing time, which, ideally, a 4th-liner, you want to have them having some PK, time, but in the past, he has. So I was looking in the past. He certainly has in previous stops. Maybe it was just a thing with St. Louis where they had a ton of options, and so, he just kind of fell by the wayside there. But with Pitlick, drafted by Edmonton in the 2nd round back in 2010, the first pick of the 2nd round. was just with Edmonton, didn't really have a whole lot of success, and then kind of found his game a bit with Dallas. Had a good 2018 season, and then 2019, not terrible. Played in some playoff games, and really probably was just with Edmonton, didn't really have a whole lot of success, and then kind of found his game a bit with Dallas. Had a good 2018 season, and then 2019, not terrible. Played in some playoff games, and really probably his round where they lost to the Islanders. And, Pitlick, had a nice run there. And then, went on to Arizona, Calgary, Montreal, and then St. Louis. So he's bounced around a bunch, but Pitlick is definitely someone that will be in that fourth line mix. So we'll see with Pitlick. Then let's continue on with the forwards. There is only two more to discuss. Two more. Let's first talk about Alex Belzile. Alex Belzile, who was with Montreal, really someone that had actually been in the Montreal system for quite some time, but he's older. He is 31 or going to turn 32 in a couple of months. So Belzile, the numbers are kind of impressive. I mean, not impressive, but Montreal fans seem to talk highly about him. So I wouldn't count him out. It was a 2-year deal for him, and I should have said with Pitlick, it was a 1-year deal worth less than $800K. I think it might have come out at $787. Yeah, $787.5. Belzile, $775 for 2 years. So, we'll see with him. Last year, played 31 games at Montreal and then 31 games with their AHL affiliate. Had 6 goals, 8 assists for 14 points last season. Has put up some it seems like he's actually just getting better over time. But again, with him, maybe someone that makes the club, right? But there'll be some competition there. But Belzile, who had been with Montreal and actually played 6 games in the playoffs, which I find interesting. He had not debuted in the NHL, made his debut in the playoffs during the bubble year, the COVID bubble year. So, and then from there, it wasn't as if he necessarily latched on with Montreal, spent more time with the AHL, but as each year has progressed, he's gotten more NHL experience, so we'll see what happens there. And then one last forward, Riley Nash. Riley Nash, who did not play in the NHL last year. He was in the AHL with the Charlotte Checkers. And actually, again, AHL, it's a different league. Obviously, it's the closest thing to the NHL, but he actually had 66 games, 59 points. But that's not his game. But, it goes to show that I guess that there is offense if needed. But Riley Nash is someone who was a fourth-line center, spent time with Carolina, Boston, Columbus, and then bounced around between Toronto, Winnipeg, Tampa, and Arizona. But like I said, those 3 teams was really Carolina, Boston, and Columbus were the main ones, with playoff time with Boston and Columbus. So he was on the Columbus team 2019. That was the year that Columbus knocked out Tampa. So he was on that team that swept the Lightning and then lost to his former team in Boston. And, again, I guess similar to Bonino, there was a time when, he had a 40-point season with the Bruins. So, this is someone that's had success before, but he's older. Riley Nash is 34. So, again, these are older signings for the Rangers. And we'll see. I think Nash will get a chance. And, he actually played 8 playoff games for the Lightning in 2022. In fact, he was inserted into the lineup versus the Rangers. And so they were 4-0 with Nash in the lineup. He didn't play much at all. But technically speaking, he was 4-0 versus the Rangers in that series. So Nash, who didn't play in the NHL this past season, but really put up a pretty impressive season in the AHL. We'll see what he does now, potentially in training camp and the preseason. Now let's talk about the defensemen. The big one being Erik Gustafsson. So Gustafsson is a guy who is more of a offensive defenseman. He's someone that I think should get a chance on that second power play unit. Has a good shot, and another guy that's bounced around a bit and played under Laviolette just last season with the Washington Capitals. So, Gustafsson, it comes in at $825K. So I think with Erik Gustafsson, technically speaking, in terms of cap hit, he's tied with the most with Jonathan Quick, technically speaking. But that doesn't mean much. But Gustafsson, came up with Chicago and, actually went back to Chicago. Again, like there's a theme with a lot of these guys. I mean, where they've been, it's a lot of experience. And Gustafsson, had a good year with Washington last year. He was traded to the Maple Leafs at the deadline last season. And with Washington, 38 points in 61 games, 7 goals, 31 assists, 38 points. And this is someone that actually, look, what's crazy is in 2019, that's kind of what I guess led him to getting a decent sized contract with the Flyers. And that didn't really work out too well as he was traded pretty quickly. But he put up a 60-point season with the Blackhawks in 2019. 17 goals, 43 assists, 60 points. Now, defense isn't really his game, but I think that maybe the bad defense is overblown. Again, he was a +9 last year with the Caps in 61 games. Like, that's pretty solid, if nothing else. It's not like he's ever had a horrendous plus-minus. And in terms of his playoff experience, mainly was during the COVID era. So in the 2020 season, in the bubble with Calgary, played 10 games in the playoffs, and then 16 games with Montreal in the 56-game season where Montreal made the final against Tampa. So Gustafsson, look, I think right now probably has that leg up for that third pair left defense. And speaking of that, Nico Mikkola signs with the Florida Panthers. It was a 3-year deal worth $2.5 million. And, again, I like Mikkola, but the Rangers were not going to be able to afford that. Just like the same thing we'll find out about Tarasenko. They're not going to be able to afford him. Tyler Mott, feel like that's not going to work. We already know Yaro Halak based on the Quick signing. So all those impending UFAs, doubtful any of them come back. I guess Patrick Kane, only because he's injured. I wouldn't really want that, but we'll revisit that down the road if it happens. But Gustafsson, was with the Maple Leafs to end last season. But this is an offensive defenseman, puck-moving defenseman. And, again, you have to like the fact that, he was with Laviolette. Could that hurt Zach Jones? It could a little bit. I hope Jones gets a chance. I really do. And they were talking highly about him, so I hope it's a real competition. But Erik Gustafsson is a New York Ranger. So in terms of rounding out the new defenseman, Connor Mackey really is the only other somewhat notable one. I'll just throw his name out there. Nicholas Brouillard, who I got to say I never heard of him. He's never played in the NHL. And I think he was it the Anaheim Ducks? I think it was the Ducks. Let me just confirm that real quick. I think. It might not have even been an NHL. He was with the San Diego Gulls. So I'm trying to think who's the NHL affiliate. I think it was the Ducks. But either way, he never made it to the NHL. So this is to me a pure depth signing. This is a Hartford one. I'm not going to get into this one. But Connor Mackey, last season, and Mackey's deal is a 1-year deal, as was Gustafsson's. Mackey, $775K. He was with Calgary for a few years, more so in the AHL than the NHL. But last year, spent only in the NHL. Played 10 games with Calgary and then was traded to Arizona, where he played 20 games there. So look, that's someone who will probably get a chance as well. I mean, again, I think that Gustafsson signing probably doesn't help him much, but I think Mackey, I think that Mackey could be someone to look at. So again, the Rangers make a lot of depth signings. The highest one for $825K in the case of Gustafsson, if you want to include Quick as well, then $800 for Wheeler, $800 for Bonino. So it's bargain bin time for the Rangers, but they had no other choice, and I think it might help them that they did this. Is this going to make a huge difference? Probably not, but I'd say today went a lot better than I thought it would. A lot of quantity, and the Rangers needed that. Look, there are a lot of spots to fill, with not a lot of money to do it. So I guess it kind of made sense that it went this way. And I guess the biggest one, Blake Wheeler, will be interesting to see. What will he do? This is Blake Wheeler is a pretty big name. He was on I think he was on the 2014 Olympic team even, if memory serves me correct. Not 100% positive on that one. But again, Wheeler, that's going to be, someone that the Rangers might try to drum up, as a big signing, even though technically it's not. But he, will certainly get a chance to do some bigger things and, certainly will be in that top 6 to start. And hopefully it works out. So again, a lot of signings for the Rangers. We'll talk about some more that might come through I've been surprised that more and more have trickled in. Gustafsson just came in, less than an hour ago, I think. And Drury had already spoken to the media before that, so I thought it was done. But really the big things are going to be now Keandre Miller and Alexis Lafreniere contracts. So, when will those happen? Who knows? But I don't think there's really going to be much that shakes loose here. But if it does, I'll certainly talk about it. And we'd greatly appreciate if you can subscribe below. We are going to definitely dive into some more New York Rangers as this offseason progresses.